The, a simple three-letter word that we so often take for granted, but its significance cannot be understated. See The Witcher versus A Witcher, or The Big Apple versus A Big Apple. So the best The indie games begin with The Eternal Castle Remastered, one of the most visually striking indie games ever, which is strange since it uses a throwback 2-bit CGA look, but where everyone else went with the NES or SNES throwback, a title like this sure sticks out. In the game, you'll navigate a post-AI Fallout world, which is perhaps becoming ever closer to our reality, exploring ancient ruins, a forgotten city, an unholy lab, and the Eternal Castle itself. It's a sci-fi entry with a very interesting world which you get to experience, where the developer highlights one of the key features as meditate, predict, and wake up in the eternal dream with Adam or Eve. So how's that to spark some curiosity? Using the for a location emphasizes its significance. See the Ishimura from Dead Space for example, where this is yet another great example. One of my favourite indie games is the Textorcist, the story of Bibbia, one that addresses this profession much in the same way as The Witcher, only our protagonist is no mere Textorcist, but the Textorcist, meaning that he is the go-to guy here. Most interestingly, this is a bullet hell boss rush title crossed with a typing game, so if you thought a regular bullet hell title where you simply held down the fire button was challenging, this is on another level, being so unique and interesting, and is something that you will only find in indie games. The variety of locations, characters, and especially bosses is fantastic, with the expected horrifying demonic bosses to battle, each with their own twist, so get this for an out of left field entry. One of the more recent titles worth a mention is The Case of the Golden Idol, being a self-styled new kind of detective game where you'll be investigating 12 strange and gruesome deaths that may somehow be all connected. Put yourself in the shoes of an 18th century detective and use your powers of deduction to solve the mystery. There's a little bit of Return of the Obra Dinn in this, in terms of how you are dragging and dropping words to solve cases, with a cursed aristocratic family at the center of this all. If you love adventure games and have not gotten this, do yourself a favor and correct that right now and solve the case. This cyberpunk shooter action RPG from 2021 is pretty good, where there are a couple of meanings to its title, The Ascent. In this game, the titular mega corporation, the Ascent Group, has collapsed, resulting in a power vacuum for criminals and other corporations to rush in. But at the same time, you play as a worker, enslaved by the company that owns you, suddenly set free and starting your own ascent up in the world. This is one of the better cyberpunk video game worlds in recent memory, with the expected augmentations and general nihilistic vibes made all the more interesting with the aforementioned power vacuum. There's plenty of loot and Diablo-style action as well, but do note that it starts off a little slow, but do stick with it. Similar to the Eternal Castle, the Sexy Brutale uses the to emphasize the location, referring to the casino mansion in which this time loop mystery takes place in. It is a never-ending must ball of murder, intrigue, and maybe even the occult, where you find yourself reliving the same day over and over again, trying to save the guests from a grisly fate. Each night, at the stroke of midnight, the clock rewinds and the murder mystery begins anew. The trick is that you have to remain hidden from the guests because of time travel reasons, so there is an added challenge, so hiding, spying, and observing will be critical. The cast of characters is weird and wonderful, combined with some fantastic music that makes this game a gem. Technically speaking, there is the in the title of Hell is Other Demons, where this pixel art arena action platformer is horrendously overlooked, so if you love games like Super Crate Box, this is definitely one that I recommend, where the optional challenges to 3-star level are fun and challenging and gives you plenty to do. I have some bonus thus here in The Hex, a meta-adventure game that comes to us from the developer of Pony Island and Inscription, where things are not as they seem in more ways than one. In a creaky old tavern during a storm, an anonymous caller tips off the barkeep that one of the 6 patrons in the tavern is planning a murder, where you play through these characters' memories in turn to figure out what happened. We have the Space Marine, the Sorceress, the Platformer, the Fighter, the apocalypse survivor and the first-person perspective, emphasizing their character archetypes and the importance of each character. More interestingly, the gameplay changes from character to character, with each section contributing to the larger mystery, with the hex referring to some sort of spell, as well as the six-sided hexagon, so plenty of meaning in the title as well. In all sorts of media, authors and writers across time have referenced the void, the abyss, the darkness, and more, being common when having an existential crisis and when speaking about some form of inner darkness, which is why the void reigns upon her heart might hold something darker. I don't usually cover early access games in videos like this, but a number of you have mentioned this in the comments and have vouched for it, being a bullet hell boss rush roguelite that is underrated. Defeating each boss grants you random upgrades roguelite style, possibly resulting in overpowered combinations, where the developer has gone in an interesting direction, with there being 80 plus bosses, but each having 9 difficulty levels or forms with different attack patterns, so there's plenty of replayability even at this stage of development. The newest title on this list is a pixel art roguelite tactics RPG defense game that has been kicking around in early access, but now that it's fully released, definitely check out The Last Spell if interested. In the context of this world, you're defending humanity's last bastion and the mages within as they summon up their power to cast the last spell in order to banish all magic from the world, which is critical since the never-ending hordes of monsters and demons come from that very source. Rebuild and upgrade the haven in the day and prepare for attack at night, using a variety of weapons and skills to exterminate your enemies. It's a tactical RPG that offers stats, skills, perks, treats, weapons, items and more to min-max, with various character classes to choose from as well. The awesome soundtrack is worth a highlight, where the, in this case, emphasizes the importance of the ritual. I probably don't have to belabor the point, since The Binding of Isaac Rebirth is one of the most popular indie games and roguelites ever, where even though I personally don't really get along with it, I do still have to give it its props, where the, in this case, emphasizes the horrific events that Isaac has to endure. One of the absolute best new wave RTS titles is The AR Billions, one that adds in a survival element to the classic genre, where it's not all about PvP, but rather pitting you against the AI, and more specifically, hordes of zombies in a steampunk world. While they have added a story campaign through early access, the mode to play in my opinion is still the sandbox mode, where you need to plan and build carefully if you want to succeed, since every building of yours that gets destroyed and infested actually spawns more zombies. I do think that this style of game is the future of the RTS genre, and has already spawned a couple of similar ones, but nothing has been on the same level of success as the original. It goes without saying that Enter the Gungeon is one of the best indie games of all time, where this bullet hell action roguelite is so tough and challenging, but rewards players that manage to master the game. The titular Gungeon is the location in which all the action takes place in, where our heroes are seeking out a gun that can kill the past. The ever-shifting Gungeon provides variety and replayability, where the adorable bullet-based enemies in the Gundead have become a mascot for the game. If it wasn't clear, the term Gungeon is a play on the word dungeon, basically being a gun-themed dungeon, where this game is all about guns, guns and more guns. Having guns which shoot bullets, missiles, grenades, bees, rainbows, and even a gun that shoots out other guns, being a Hall of Fame game and location. Once more unto the breach, dear friends, is one of the most famous lines from Shakespeare, spoken by King Henry V, as he attempts to inspire his men in battle, with the similarly named Into the Breach having a similar sort of energy, where a team of 3 mech pilots must do what they can to save the world and timeline from an alien threat. Similar breach concepts have been applied in kaiju fiction, such as in Pacific Rim, where breaches allow kaiju to cross over into our world, where this pixel art tactics roguelite is another one of the best indie games ever and is one of my favourites. Another must-play title is The Witness, a first-person puzzle game where you wake up on a mysterious island with no memory, setting out to explore only to run into line puzzles of all things. While it doesn't look like much, it is actually one of the cleverest games to be made, where I shall not spoil anything, but when you do stumble upon some of the puzzles and solve them, the sense of satisfaction that you get is immense. The term The Witness here is a curiosity and not explicitly spelled out, but it probably refers to you, the player, as the witness to something, again, not just being a witness among many, having some standout visuals that still hold up today despite this being a game from 2016. Another title that needs no further introduction is this pixel art Metroidvania that merges both 8 and 16-bit art styles, where your title denotes how important your mission is in The Messenger, having to deliver a scroll that is essential to the survival of your clan. We can watch this video for more of the best Metroidvanias.